Medical health threat and countermeasures. Pretty brief slide, so stick with me. Some of it will be primarily for deploying soldiers, but I think it's relevant to everyone, so stay tuned. Next slide. So the purpose is to enable you to protect your health and safety while deployed. Your health is your greatest asset. If you're not physically able to conduct the mission, then you're not going to be any good over there. Next slide. Historical data shows that the greatest loss of forces is not from combat wounds, rather it's the majority of losses are the result of disease and non-battle injury. The next slide, there's a graph that shows, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, that non-battle injuries definitely lead the way, battle injuries to follow that, followed by mental health, and then some minor ones that follow that. So taking care of yourself is important. We're going to go into those different areas of what you need to be aware of. Whether deployed or at home. Next slide. We don't have a deployment health guide, so if you get one, hold on to it. You can refer to it while you're overseas. Next slide. Preparing to deploy is what we're doing this weekend, and what we'll likely do again as the deployment gets closer, checking all the boxes, making sure that everything is ready to go for you to get out of here. And so that's why it's important that we go through all this and make sure that you're doing all the follow-ups that you need medically so that you're fit to go overseas. Next slide. Malaria medication. If and when you get it, make sure you are taking it as recommended. With malaria, they require you to take it a certain time before you go overseas and a certain time afterwards. So it's important that you adhere to those guidelines. It says the more person days were lost among U.S. military personnel due to malaria than bullets during every military campaign fought in locations with active malaria transmission during the 20th century. So it is something not to mess around with. Next slide. Preparing to deploy. So additional packing items. It's just basic, guys. Underwear, hygiene products. You know, if you got funky feet, take whatever you need to control that while you're there. Medications, make sure you at least have a 90-day supply. Female urinary diversion device, I'll leave that up to you females. I don't know anything about that. Next slide. Field sanitation team, just talk, if you need to know who that is, just ask your chain of command as the deployment gets closer. Next slide. All right, while deployed, Sergeant Inslee.
So this is just going to be some things to keep in mind while deployed, though really it's mostly general things to keep in mind at all times, okay? Deployment healthcare, know where to seek healthcare when you're deployed. Make sure you know where to go, who your medics are, who you can talk to. Maintain your health and seek care whenever an illness or injury occurs. Don't let those wait around. Personal protection measures, main one, wash your hands. We hear this all the time from when we're little kids, no different now. Especially when you're in different countries, you don't know what kind of germs they got going around over there. So especially, it's the biggest help to prevent even spreading it from your buddies too, okay? Next slide. Next slide. If you cannot find soap and running water, make sure you have some hand sanitizer. You want to make sure it's at least 60% alcohol. That's the most effective for you. And follow the instructions on the label. Next slide. If you need to, carry your hygiene supplies with you. Remain alert and aware of your surroundings. Wear your shower shoes. Prevents more than athlete's foot. That's just the main one. Sleep head to toe if you're in close quarters. Change your socks daily and your uniform at least weekly. Don't jump off of vehicles. And then seek prompt medical care for any health concerns. The medics can help you out with whatever you think might be going wrong. Next. Heat injury. We go over these quite often. You have your heat cramps, exhaustion, heat injury, stroke, and then you have water intoxication. Countermeasures, drink your fluids regularly. Before you are thirsty, when you feel thirsty, it's too late. Establish the work-rest schedules for hotter climates. Avoid over-the-counter medications, dietary supplements, alcohol, tobacco, and excessive caffeinated beverages, which I know is a very hard thing in the military to avoid. Sunburn, use some sunscreen if you're fair skinned. It's a good idea too in general. It's good for your skin. Limit your exposure if you can, protect your eyes, and then if it's really bad out, cover your nose and mouth to limit the drying. Next. And we also have our cold injury preventions. When possible, remain inside. Drink plenty of warm, non-caffeinated liquids. And then you can remember the little acronyms they have now. Cold, keep it clean, avoid overheating, wear clothing loose in layers, and then keep your clothing dry. Next. If you're going into any higher elevations, you have to be aware of the high altitude sickness. It can kill because your body is not getting enough oxygen. If you know you're going into higher elevations, be sure and train for that, and then stay hydrated. Next. Carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas that can kill you. Countermeasures: vent all indoor natural gas, oil, kerosene heaters to the outside. Do not sleep in vehicles with the engine running or use engine exhaust for heat. Move to fresh air immediately if CO exposure is suspected. Next. These are some combat arms and earplugs. You want to make sure to protect your hearing at all times. You may be around generators, vehicles, watercraft, aircraft noise. Make sure to use your earplugs that they give you. Next. Vision. If you wear glasses, be sure to wear your glasses. Do not wear contacts when you're in an overseas environment. Maintain at least 2 pairs and 1 protective mask insert. And then when you're going out and doing anything, make sure you have your safety goggles on if terrain requires it. Next. Food and water safety countermeasures. Wash your hands with soap before eating and after using the toilet as best you can. If not, again, use the hand sanitizer. Consume food, water, and ice only from U.S. approved sources. If you do end up eating local food, boil it, cook it, peel it, or forget it. So just be cautious of what you eat over there. Next. Diseases from insects. Insect-borne diseases such as malaria, dengue, Zika, and yellow fever are spread by mosquitoes. So the DoD has this nice insect repellent system that they give you to prevent that. Use it. Next. Animal contact. Do not feed or handle wild or stray animals. It is very enticing when you are overseas for months on end and you see a nice little kitty walking by and you want to pet it. Try not to, okay? Leave the animals alone. You don't know what they could have or what they could transmit to you. Next. Rabies. Untreated rabies is almost always fatal. If you are bitten by an animal or an animal's saliva contacts your broken skin, meaning they don't actually have to bite you. The dog can just drool all over you and you already have a cut there. If you get it in your mouth or your eyes, immediately wash the area out with soap and then seek your medic right then for treatments. Next. Venomous animals. Always assume that all snakes are poisonous. I know y'all don't have snakes up here, so it's a lot harder for me to just be like, you know which ones are and aren't. But just assume they are. If you don't know, it's better to just stay away from them. Shake out your clothes, shoes, and bedding before use. Look before you reach into stuff. Don't walk around barefooted. And if you do see one, just leave it alone. Next. Hazardous plants. Countermeasures. Don't touch or eat unfamiliar plants. Wash promptly after exposure. Wash clothing after contact. If you're not sure of what all plants are over there, just take a look. It'll be another briefing and make sure you know what to look for as far as poisonous plants. Next. Sleep.
I love sleep. Okay, sleep, critical for sustaining the mental abilities that are essential to mission success. Recommended 7 to 8 hours. We all know that doesn't always happen, so sleep when the mission allows. Next slide. Oh, caffeine, yes. So use caffeine appropriately to temporarily sustain mental performance until you can sleep. That's another thing we don't need instruction on. Monsters and Red Bull and everything else you guys are really familiar with. The main thing is that if you're having a hard time sleeping, you shouldn't be pounding Monsters like 2 hours before you're planning on racking out. So some people can, but if you're having issues sleeping, just kind of think about how much caffeine intake you have during the day. Next slide. Physical fitness is important. We all know that. I'm sure that we'll have more than enough opportunity to get swole, like the previous sergeant was saying. Just stay active. You don't want to get stagnant. That could also lead to injury. So just make sure you're moving. Next slide. Proper nutrition. Energy needs typically increase while we're deployed, so maximize your energy stores. Make sure you're eating lots of carbs if you're going to be depleting those, if long rucks, whatever, doing a bunch of workouts. You want to have the energy there. And stay hydrated. Can't have a medic slide up here without telling you guys to drink water. Next slide. Oral health. Some of this stuff is basic. Brush your teeth. If you don't, start now. Make sure that you are, flossing. You don't want to get over to a foreign country to find out that you need a root canal or some major medical thing. So make sure any follow-up you need with, dentist, you get that taken care of now. Next slide. Dietary supplements, just be careful. There's a lot of weird stuff out there. There's a website here if you want to research what supplements you may be taking. Just be careful. I know a lot of guys use pre-workout and stuff like that and just go nuts and get all kinds of weird heart palpitations and stuff like that. So just be mindful of what you're using. Next. Not a good time to start taking steroids, and it's illegal without a prescription, so don't do that. Can lead to aggression and violence, can damage a lot of things, including high blood pressure, acne, shrinking of the testicles in men, facial hair growth in women. So keep that in mind if you want to use steroids. Next slide. Smoking. Deployments I've heard are a time where people use, to start new habits and to quit bad ones. So this could be, a chance, but I would say that, you can start now. If you're thinking about quitting smoking, you can, try to put it down now. Maybe the deployment will help you put you over the edge to stop that. So they just have some price, what the average pack of cigarettes are in the U.S. It could be more or less than that. I have no idea. Next slide. Deployments are stressful. The main things that are concerning soldiers are the uncertainty of how long they're going to be, not having the right equipment, or damage to equipment that you do have. Family stressors, being away from family. Maybe this is your first time going overseas. You've never seen poverty before. All things like that can be stressful. So it's just important that you kind of have that expectation built up in your mind so that when you get there, it's not overwhelming. Next slide. Social support, so that ties in with that. Just make sure you have a good network of people, whether it's family members, spouse, friends, coworkers, whoever it may be, that you're, at least have an outlet to talk about stuff with. However, whatever mode of communication we have with people back home, that those lines are still open. And then spend time with your battle buddies now. If you know who's on the DMD and it's going, it'd be a good idea to maybe get to know those people a little bit better. Or if it's people that you don't know, start to talk with them. So once we get over there, we're going to be stuck together for a long time. So keep that in mind. Next slide. Acceptance and humor. Soldiers do a good job of taking crappy situations and making them funny. So that's a good attitude to have and something to keep doing is, as things progress, we get closer, we get over there, things get rough. Learning acceptance and just to have a good attitude about it, regardless of how rough it may be. Next slide. It's also keeping perspective. Everyone matters. There's no, lesser job. Everyone that is going is important. People that are staying back here are important. So know your role in that. And then focus on the good that will come of it as we, prepare to go. Like Sergeant Major was saying earlier, just keep in perspective that, we're going for a noble mission and us going there and successfully getting boots on the ground over there, successfully coming back is a big deal, so keep that in mind. Next slide. Know who your chaplains and spiritual advisors are. We all should have met with them over this weekend. 10 services, maintain prayer and meditation, if that's what you're into. Doing that breathing thing if you want to. Next slide. Some other basic things: manage waste, prevent oil and fuel spills, clean vehicles, and use other cleaning substances in appropriate locations. Definitely respect cultural and historical property. That's just being sensitive to a foreign country that we're in, and then don't mess up the environment that we're in. Next slide. Depleting uranium. Don't touch it. Don't approach it. Notify authorities of the location of any battlefield debris, and the same protective measures for unfired DU munitions are the same as for all munitions. Next slide. And next slide. So again, your health is critical to mission success. So everything that we went over this weekend, especially with your PHAs, everything with medication, with follow-ups, make sure all that stuff gets checked off. You don't want to be excited to go on the deployment and then realize there's things that you didn't follow up on that are now going to prevent you to go. So make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and it'll be a good deployment. God bless America.